Look, everyone wants to make a movie, but the interesting thing is that if you take a benchmark of 100,000 people going to see it on its New Zealand release as a sort of benchmark, saying that's a hit of some sort, then there's only like 3 or 4 people who have ever made more than one in the history of New Zealand cinema. And there's only 2 that have made more than 2. That's me and Roger. So therefore, nearly everybody only makes one. And then they either go overseas and we never see them again, or they give it away. So it's bloody tough. That's what I'm trying to say. It's like, it was worse in those days, because in those days, Oamaru would have had a local radio station and a local newspaper. Now, they don't anymore. They might have one or the other, but everything's been nationalised. But in those days, all those places had it, and everybody reviewed movies, so you'd be flooded by reviews. And if they didn't like it, you were like, you could make a national idiot of yourself on a huge scale. And I just made 2. I'd made Goodbye Pork Pie. Well, I made Wild Man first, and people fought their way across crowded barns to tell me that it was a piece of shit, you know, and I thanked them very much. But it did make me pretty shy of it all. Then I made Pork Pie, and it was proclaimed as a work of genius, and I had a look at it and thought, it's pretty good, and it's very high energy, and it's definitely got a heart. But it ain't no work of genius, you know, like, so I tried to maintain my equilibrium and not believe my own publicity and stuff like that. I thought Utu was a much better film in terms of cinema quality and all that sort of stuff. And the critics hated it. I think out of all the papers and periodicals in New Zealand, I got 4 good reviews out of about 30, you know.
But it did pretty damn well. I mean, there were a lot of people who went to see it, didn't they?
Yeah, a lot of Maoris went to see it, you know, which really pleased me. I wasn't counting on it, because normally, you know, if you make a film that features a certain section of the population, it's really hard to please that section. The philosophy was that the most important thing in life is to avoid boredom, you know, and to avoid it through creative activity if possible. And so that's what we pursued with great vigour. Even while the Blerta tours were on and I was full-time in the band, well, I was never full-time in the band because I played the trumpet, and it doesn't fit with a rock and roll band too well, so there's only certain numbers you can play, and so I was constantly looking for things to do, and they were usually cinematic things or light show things. Most of my education as a filmmaker was made shooting silent films, and in some ways it was a good education because you had to solve your story-making problems with just the image, you know, and it stood me in good stead, you know. Often, you know, you'd be overseas, some problem would come up, and sometimes I'd think about it, how would I think it if we didn't have any sound, which was normal back then, and that gave me the answer. And I still love those sequences where people don't talk, and the whole story's carried in little actions and the attention of the camera on certain details, you know. Blerta, all the money went back in to get the bus to the next town. I never made any money, never, even right through the television series and everything. Finished up in 1977 at the end of the TV series with nothing. We'd spent everything on the series itself, you know. With all due respect, I didn't think a public servant was the right sort of person to be the distributor for a film like Goodbye Pork Pie, you know. And so I fought really hard to retain it, and it was quite a struggle because they tried to take it off us. The whole brochure that we sent to everybody, all the press people saying this film went to Cannes, and I thought, what a waste of time, they've taken it to Cannes. What other foreigners want to give a damn about a couple of Kiwis smoking dope and driving around in a Mini, you know? I said, the frogs aren't going to be interested in that. I said, and to my horror, it sold 21 countries, and we're very pleased. But that's not who we made it for. We made it for you, Jacobs, you know, and that was the whole pitch of the release. And man, it worked. It used to be that if you said a line in a movie like, I'm taking this bloody car to Invercargill, that'd be a huge laugh, an embarrassed laugh, because people didn't say words like Invercargill in films, you know. It was like, they would say, I'm taking this motherfucker to Chicago. And they would all go, yeah, right on, you know. But in Pork Pie, they say, we're taking this car to Invercargill, and the audience goes, yeah, you know, and you go, we're there. I thought it was a funny line, yeah. I didn't think it was a yeah line, I got the shock of my life. I went to the premiere in Invercargill. That's where it opened. I was in the audience, you know. They were out of their seats for that line. That was an easy decision. The man came in and you could see fire in his eyes, you know. I mean, even when he was smiling, you know, and you go, this is our man. There's no one. He's very special. We might still have the record for the biggest number of extras on a single day shoot. We had 1,000 extras up there. And, see, nowadays, I mean, I don't think Jackson got anywhere near that because they just had more on the computer. It's in the middle of nowhere. It's halfway between Hastings and Taiapi. It's really bleak. It's, you know, and we bust them in. They were mostly school kids. And they made their own costumes and paint their hats. We gave them a plan of how to make a military hat out of cardboard. And we had about 40 really good uniforms that could withstand close-up. And we had another 40 or 50 that were a bit dodged, but okay, so long as they didn't get too close. And the rest of them were like, you know, wear black. Anything black will do. And, you know, there was a tent set up and they'd come in the tent and the would get some masking tape and put one down there and one down there, white, you know, and turn them round and, you know, and they're all carrying broomsticks or something painted black. And most of the cavalry were girls from pony clubs, you know. But, you know, out there in the field, there's still 1,000 of them, and it looks pretty good, and our good ones are right up the front. When we went to do The Quiet Earth, there was a big kerfuffle tax shelter-wise, and the previous director was Sam Pillsbury, and he wanted to pull out of it because he didn't feel it was ready and all that sort of stuff. And I took it over. But at one stage, he said, no, I want to can it. And the producer went back to the investors and said, no, sorry, this one's off. And the investor said, no way, we've signed deals here and we've used our provisional tax as some of the leverage and we've spent it already, so we don't care what you do, but something called The Quiet Earth has to be made. You can just make it and stick it on the shelf, doesn't worry us, but you have to make it, because the money has to be spent within that 12-month period or the deal won't work. It did feel like a high dive, you know, like an artist climbing steps up to this high dive pool where the pool's down there. There's a little dot way down below and he's asked me to dive off and I can see there's no water in it. Sort of, it felt like that. I sort of said, the first half will be the scientist by himself. And they just said, oh, you'll never pull it off. And I said, yeah, but what it'll do is it'll give the film, it'll make the film distinctive. It'll make it different from everything else that's out there. And if we're going to go down, let's go down in a blaze of glory, you know, like, let's not with a whimper, you know. So let's push the envelope. In Hollywood, I quickly gained the reputation of being able to make things at a price less than other people and make them look like too much more had been spent on them, which was I wasn't doing myself a service in a way, because then I tended to get low budget stuff. But low budget stuff, generally speaking, was much less neurotic than big budget stuff, and less interfered with, you know, by the executives and things, because there wasn't so much at stake. I mean, my problem's always been, you know, keeping my mouth shut, you know, like, and when I was in Hollywood, you know, and they'd say, how do you like the script? And I'd say, oh, I think it's fixable. And the agent would go, that's not what you say. You say it's terrific. You say it's brilliant. It's the best thing you've ever read. That's what you say. You know, I mean, I'd say, but I'm a director and I'm presenting myself to these people in the marketplace as a sort of paid professional advisor on how to get the best out of their product. So I've got to tell them the truth. You know, that's the way I saw it.